Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Tropical Passion Tea from Ten Ren, which is a tea shop in downtown Manhattan and I think Flushing, Queens, New York. It's just a nice fruity tea, just all kinds of different fruits in one, which sounds kind of summery, but I think you can have it any time of year, including the very, very end of autumn, although it really feels like winter now. And I'm using this big mug. It's an Austin mug because of the whole size of Texas thing, and it's just a big mug in general, because I thought that would be fitting, because today I'm doing one of my reading hopefuls, TBR, possibilities, etc. The second. So the first one was about translations, and one of these books, well, had been mentioned before and is a translation. And one of the books I mentioned in the translated books I'd like to read could have been included in this book, but I'm trying not to overlap, if possible, because there's so many possibilities. I can't spend time on any of them. But that book would have been War and Peace, not because of the translated this time, but because of its size. Today I am focusing on all the big books, the massive tomes, the hernia inducers, the wrist riskers, whatever. I can't think of any other big words or expressions. So yeah, these are all books that are a bit of a commitment. There are about 8 of them, and if I could read half of them, that would be a big accomplishment, literally big accomplishment. I know March has the March of the Mammoths, usually every year. I'm assuming they're going to do it this March, wherein people pick up the biggest books they have, usually over, I think, 800 pages. I think I've picked over 700 for my criteria here. So we'll see. We'll see what I can do. A lot of these are biographies and some of them are novels. So a little cross genre in case I do a TBR about biographies or classics, whatever, which I might. I don't know if I'm going to end up doing so, but I'll just have to take these out, but they're going to be silently included. All right, so we're going to start with a biography of someone who had quite a long life and was quite important in recent history of Britain, the history of the world, World War II, big deal. Born in Victorian times, died in the 60s, 1960s. big character on The Crown, which, if you've watched any of my videos, you will know that I talked about a lot. So this is the volume 1, I think, of The Last Lion, Winston Spencer Churchill, Visions of Glory, 1874 to 1932. So the earlier years. You can see this is a young picture of him by William Manchester. Did I say William Manchester? That's the author. I have, I think, the 3rd book. And so I still don't have the 2nd, and that's okay, because I probably won't be able to get to that this coming year. Who knows? You never know. But I found this the other day at Book Off, so I was like, well, for $1. And I was like, well, let's start with the beginning, right? Let's just start from the beginning. And, the one benefit, of course, this year, 2020, I hate to think about benefits, from a pandemic, but one of the good things about being home is that it's easier for me, who doesn't usually read from e-readers, it's easier for someone like me to read big books at home, rather than bring it with me places. So this could be good in general, but like this book might be great to start earlier rather than later, because I'm assuming I was wrong so many times this year. I was assuming that I'd be going back to the office full time by now or by January, but it's obviously not going to happen yet. So who knows how much time I'll have to read big books. So I might as well start early. Anyway, this book has start in here. Someone had written it was a Christmas present, apparently, to someone named Elizabeth in 1990. So 30 years ago. Can you believe 1990 is 30 years ago? So this book, when was this even written? Book was written in 1983. Oh, okay. So it was about 7 years old. So he wrote to Elizabeth, a guy named Tom, says, "How could you be expected to read the 2nd edition without the 1st? Wishing you peace and joy and the leisure to read this. Love, Tom." Well, I don't know what happened to Elizabeth. I don't maybe want to know. if this ended up in Book Off for $1. But apparently she had the second volume, and maybe I should have looked harder in Book Off to see if maybe that would have ended up there. Oh well. No rush, because I'm probably going to take a while to get through this one. So I think we spent enough time with Churchill. I still have the price tag in the back. I guess these are his pants, I'm assuming. Are they? I don't know. I will have to find out. Does it say here? Back photograph of William... Oh, no, of course not. Oh boy, I really need to read this. Back photograph of William Manchester and Lady Soames Mary Churchill, which I think is his daughter. Man, I am not observant, am I? This is totally not a Victorian photograph. Do you know what? Give me a break. It's been a year. I just use 2020 as an excuse for everything. All right. So here's my next book, which somehow feels lighter. Well, it's a paperback. And this is sort of a biography. It's called that. It's Peter Ackroyd's London, the Biography. And I like Peter Ackroyd. I've read a lot of his books, fiction and nonfiction. So far, I like him a lot. I did start this book a while back. I even carried it with me to work, I think. I remember reading it on the subway once. But, I mean, that was going to be not the brightest thing for me to do on a regular basis. And I want to get back into it. So I got up to, like, page 136. And that's like, progress. So it would be good to continue. I mean, I love reading about London. I guess the size of it may have... I don't know why I stopped reading it, but I bought it. See, this was published in... it says 2001. But copyright by Peter Ackroyd 2000. So, 20 years ago. I bought it in London. I bought it in London in, I think, the British Museum. And brought it home with me. And, I mean, I have no problem with buying books, by the way, when I go away. But sometimes it can be buying too many books and too many big books is a bit silly. So I always like to strike a balance. I call this my shantaram because of someone I know who, when I was traveling with them to London, went to a bookshop when Shantaram was pretty new. It's a novel, by the way. And I forgot who the author is. And they had trouble putting it in their luggage, and I think they had, maybe bought too many things already in London, and that was like the breaking point, so they had to get new luggage or something. And they ended up, if I remember correctly, not reading the book and getting rid of it. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to Shantaram this book. But I sometimes want to buy Shantaram, which is also a very big book. I see it when I'm in Book Off. I usually see at least 2 copies of it for $1. And I'm like, man, maybe one day. But anyway, that's a side point. Thing is, I do now when I make plans to go back to the UK, which won't happen anytime soon. But if it happened somehow in 2021, if it happened, I would still intend to go to bookshops and buy books, but I probably wouldn't buy a book this big just because, I don't know, doesn't make sense. We'll see. That I don't have to worry about yet, do I now? Okay, I apologize again. I'm constantly fiddling with my hair because it has just not been happy lately. I know I could get another haircut. It's been almost 3 months, but I'm like, I'm trying to put that off. Side point, this is not tea and rambling. This is biographies and chunky books and classics. So, as you may, if you've been watching my video, have seen, I referred to this book a couple of times. I've been reading books by the Brontes and about the Brontes, and I do plan to hopefully finish the main novels of all 3 sisters by next year, because I'm almost done with Shirley. And after that, that's Charlotte Bronte. After that, I have The Professor, which is a very small novel, and I could probably knock it out. But whether I finish that one or not, I'm not going to even worry about. But this book has been sitting on my bookshelf for not too long, but long enough where I really want to read it. And it won't be the only book I'm going to read about the Brontes, but more on that in another video. But this is The Brontes' Wild Genius on the Moors, The Story of a Literary Family by Juliet Barker. I think that I would like to read this within the next couple months, and maybe in March. We'll see. But it's been calling to me for so long, and I've just been putting it off because I have other things I want to read. And now I'm just like, it'll happen. It'll happen. That has to be. It just has to be. But anyway, we shall see. I was going to show you some novels, but I'm not done with nonfiction. So this is one I also bought at Book Off. Actually, a lot of these are books I bought at Book Off. But this wasn't $1, but it was worth what I paid for it because it is huge. And let's see. Oh my goodness. Well, it's over 1,000 pages. And I read Hamilton by Bronte now and liked it mainly because I liked the subject material. And this Grant, oh my goodness, by Bronte now is something I've been wanting to read for a while. But it's a time period I don't know that much about. Frankly, I'm not that interested in this time period-ish. You know, the kind of Civil War-ish time period and weird sound. Traffic, I don't know. Yeah, so I don't even know his exact time that he was living, but I know he was Civil War-ish time. And well, so that's one thing. I do feel like I don't need to read everything there is to know about American history, but I always feel like for someone who loves history nowadays. Okay, we're gonna have some really distracting sound effects now. I feel like I'm not very versed in a lot of periods of history, of American history, and I don't need to know everything, but I think it would be nice to know more. And I have heard really good things about this biography from people who read it, and people who I know have read books similar to what I've been reading. So I am going to assume that is a good thing. That might take me a very long time to read, but, no regrets. And I know where Grant's tomb is, by the way. I also know where Hamilton's. It's in New York, so you know. All right. So now we're going to move swiftly to Russia. And this is a book that is probably, of all these books, one of the smallest. It is like just about 700 pages. But it is a subject I've wanted to read up on more. I have a few books on this subject, but this is the biggest one, so who knows. And this is The Romanovs, 1613 to 1918, by Simon Sebag Montefiore, author of Jerusalem. Do I have that? I don't think I do. But anyway, who knows? I have so many books. But I love the color of this book, which I know has nothing to do with anything. But I find the Romanovs interesting, very tragic. Although, I'm of two opinions when these things happen. I don't like to see what happened to them, but I also kind of feel that it's like, why couldn't you see these things coming? I don't know. But this seems to cover, I'm doing math, 300 years of history, so that could be quite an interesting read. I hope. Some people have said this is a dry book, but what is the definition of dry? What's the opposite of dry in a book? Moist? I said it. You know what? That word, for someone who doesn't like a lot of sounds, that word doesn't bother me so much, but it just doesn't apply to a book. You can't use any. Juicy is probably the only one. Like when you talk about juicy gossip or whatever, oh, this book is so juicy. Maybe, but even that doesn't sound right. Anyway, I'm digressing once again. Now, here is a book that is actually probably, maybe this is the shortest one. This only makes it to 700 pages with the index in the back. So this is a bit of a stretch. It's not quite, but I thought I'd just throw it in. Because I know I could have waited to put this with biography, but I'm probably going to, if I do another video about biography, which I probably don't need to at this point, I'll probably have enough to talk about. So I figured I'll just throw this one in. Why not? And this is Thomas Cromwell, A Revolutionary Life by Dermot McCullough. Dermot McCullough? I know I learned how to pronounce it once, and I promptly forgot because, it's hard. I did teach myself words in Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic for a while, and I learned how to pronounce certain Gaelic words, but there's also like Irish and etc. Welsh, which I think is a bit different. But names of like of like a kind of a Celtic background, I guess you might say, are not easy to pronounce. That's a side point. It's easy to say Cromwell, unless you're in Berlin in Wolf Hall, and then you say Cromwell. Anyway, I bought this book in the Strand bookshop in Manhattan, which is a pretty famous independent bookshop that's been around forever. And if you're ever in the city in Manhattan, if when travel starts again, or if you live in New York and you haven't been to the Strand, it is a great place to try out. But yeah, I found this and I was very happy to find it because speaking of Wolf Hall, I finished the trilogy this year, and I would just like to get an all-around, biography on Thomas Cromwell, and I've heard good things about this one as well. So, and Hilary Mantel gave it a blurb, so there you go. So that's all for the nonfiction. Not that, when I say that's all, right? That's going to take me forever. So the first fiction I'm going to show you is something you've seen before. I actually have read over 300 pages in this, and I want to continue. I stopped reading it in September because I got into October, and I haven't picked it up since then, but it's a great book. So I want to start it up again, I guess in January, and I will do so. And that is also a translated work. Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo. Fantastic book. I insisted on getting the unabridged version because I had the abridged version that Barnes & Noble did, and I was angry because I'm like, I want to read the whole thing. And I have no idea if it would have been better off if I would have just gone for the abridged, but I don't know. I could be a purist like that, but you know what? Hey. And this is probably one of the, just in terms of page count, it's like over 1,200 pages, so probably the biggest one, but not the heaviest. It's, because it's a soft cover. Anyway, paperback, So last but not least, although it is probably of all of these the lightest book to carry, it's compact. Anyway, this is kind of wishful thinking, but I could do it. And this is Anthony Trollope's The Last Chronicle of Barset. When I say that it's wishful thinking, it's because there are, I think, 2 more books that I have to finish before I get to this one. If I'm going to read the series in order, it's a series in a very loose sense, like he wrote it, just kept writing books about in this series, but it wasn't like cliffhanger type things. And each book has some similar characters in a similar area, but it's not like the same exact people are being followed throughout the whole thing. Anyway, I read the first 3 already in the Barsetshires, Barsetshire, that's what they call it, series of novels, and I loved all of them, and so I plan to pick up Framley Parsonage probably in January, I hope, or February, March. And if I do that and I read The Small House at Allington, which is the one that comes after that, I think, and that one is supposed to be really good. And if I do that, as the weather's getting warmer, perhaps, and then I can conclude this one maybe by the end of the year, then it can be done. So this is probably the last one I will pick up of all of these books, but not least, like I said, I'm still excited about it. I love Anthony Trollope's books, and I hate that I've left him off for the past months because I just haven't had time to get to him, and I feel sad about that. I miss Anthony Trollope dreadfully. So that is all, if you can call that all, of the books. Please let me know in your comments if you have read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books, or if you have any massive, massive books that you're planning to read in the near future. And that is all for now. If you like to talk about big books, if you like to talk about classics, history, biography, etc., please subscribe, and that's all. Also, if you like to talk about tea. This is Catherine taking tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and massive book-filled day. Goodbye.